Alright, today I wanted to quickly explain why sometimes you'll hit and do really low damage, and sometimes you'll get a big chunky hit like that. So the way the damage calculation works in Swordai is there are a few different variables that control how much damage you do. And I'm in the editor so I can turn on some of the debug tools so I can really show things. So when you swing, a whole bunch of different points on your sword are traced throughout the entire portion of the swing. And, it tracks your sword as you're moving, so even if I'm stabbing, I could in theory, kind of make an arc with it. And the yellow part, the attack is blockable but doesn't do damage. That's the very beginning of the attack. And then the blue part is where you're dealing damage. And so when you hit an enemy, the game knows which part of your sword you hit with, at which point in the animation, at which point on their body. And you can see it makes a little square where it hit. And sometimes there's multiple hits, and then it chooses the one that happens first and applies damage based on that. And so first off, one way to do low damage is you hear that separate sound effect. That's a thunk. That's because I'm standing too close, and the tracer that's actually hitting is the one that is on the cross guard of my sword, or the hilt of my sword. And you can see in the chat in the bottom right, it's saying cross guard hit, and those are going to have greatly reduced damage, somewhere between 0 and kind of 6, depending on your character's stats. So one of the ways to do really low damage would be to handle hit, and for most of the swords, I would think of it like playing baseball or tennis or something. You want to be a decent ways away from your opponent, and you want to hit with your blade about 2/3 of the way up the blade for maximum damage, except with the stab, obviously you want to hit with the point. So if I'm really up close, even if I don't handle hit, I'm hitting with my lower blade. Now I handle hit. I'll do more damage if I back up a bit and get a big hit with the upper blade. And for a stab, I want to be hitting them right with the point. So the part of the blade matters. We don't want to handle hit. The next thing is going to be attack charge. So if I just tap my attack here, I'm going to do low damage. If I let my charge meter in the middle of my screen fill all the way up till it's blinking and full, that's going to be much higher damage. So you can see a minimum charge swing is doing kind of 10 to 15, and a fully charged swing is going to do 42. Next, it's going to matter where I hit my opponent in the body. So headshots are going to do extra damage. So you can see a fully charged hit to the head. It's going to do more high 40s, low 50s. A fully charged hit to the arm is going to be low 40s. So, part of the body matters as well. And you can head hit with any of the shots, with the attacks, but it's obviously tougher to do with these attacks that start low. You kind of have to dodge your sword around their arm to get it. Then the last thing is which part of the swing animation you hit with. So if I want to do maximum damage, I want to hit kind of, imagine it's real life, I want to hit with the middle of my swing where I've kind of had time to build up momentum with my sword. And I want to fully charge, and I want to hit the head. If instead, if I hit with the very beginning of my swing, you can see the damage is a lot lower. And similarly, if I try and hit as my momentum's kind of falling off right before my sword turns off, that's going to do about half as much damage also. And that's more dramatic on the stab. I don't want to hit as I'm pulling backwards. You can see that does, very greatly reduced damage. I want to hit as my blade's going forward to actually get high damage. Now the damage profiles by part of sword, by the part of your blade, also vary a bit with the sword. So you can see this guy has kind of a extra ricasso on the bottom chunk of his blade. So I'll do less damage if I hit with that, and the cross guard detection is also bigger. Whereas with the katana, it has a very small guard, so it's easier to be up close and avoid handle hits, which makes it a better sword for beginners generally. But you sacrifice a fair amount of range. So if I'm back here, I can't hit at all with a stab, Whereas if I'm using a giant sword like this one, I can be quite far back and still get some good hits. So hopefully that clears up confusion about how to maximize your damage. I know for new players sometimes it's a lot to take in, and it can feel like you just don't do any damage, and you're wondering why all your attacks are doing a fraction of the damage of what your opponents are doing to you. But I think if you keep all of these concepts in mind, you can go ahead and get pretty good stats. And I set up these little guys in the tutorial just messing around in the editor. But if in game, if you go back to the main menu, you can always go into your player home here. And you can mess around with the training dummy over here and look at the stats on, DPS that you're dealing, damage per attack as well, and try to practice headshotting with all the attacks. So that's, damage per attack of 52 there. And then you can also summon the attack trainer and practice dealing damage to an opponent as well. So that is it. Thanks for watching.